We're really excited because we're back to the goalkeeping side of things, which is very important to me. So thank you very much for keepers from all over Ontario and in the Midwest US. So, thanks for joining us. We're very excited to have Devon Kerr here from the Washington Spirit. She's back training. So that's a good sign. As you guys have seen, Devon, I'm not gonna do too much of an intro and bio. I'll turn it over to you, Devon. So thank you for joining us.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm happy to talk to you. I will give you a quick rundown of kind of my background a little bit. I have some national team experience with Canada in the youth system. I played a under-17 World Cup with the Canadian national team. I made my way through the youth program for a little bit, stopping at under-20s. Then I made a shift to the US side. I played with the US under-20s and under-23s for a few years, most recently being called in a year ago. So that's kind of my national team experience currently. And then I played my collegiate career at Ohio State, a Big Ten school. I played there for 4 seasons. I graduated half a semester early. My major was in human ecology, and I graduated in 2018. I then entered into the NWSL Draft, which is the National Women's Soccer League, so the professional league in the US available for women. I entered in, did not get drafted, was invited into a couple of preseason camps by Utah, North Carolina Courage, Houston Dash, and Orlando Pride. I ended up choosing to go to Houston Dash. I played a season there last year. And then after my season, I decided I wanted to try to go play professionally in France on loan. And what that means is basically you're you still play for your current team. So it would have been Houston for me. I would go out on loan to France, which means Houston still owns me and owns my rights. And then I would come back to Houston after my France season was over. Turns out that wasn't allowed. So I asked to be waived by Houston to go to France. I went to France to FC Metz. After a few weeks, I realized it wasn't really for me. My visa hadn't been approved. There was a lot of technical issues there that weren't really right for me. And I decided to leave and sign with Washington Spirit. They had reached out to me and offered me a multi-year contract, which was awesome type of security for me. So I decided to sign with Washington, and I have been here ever since, and been here hoping to, have a season, but we're kind of just dealing with the madness right now. So I'm just trying to stay as positive I can with my team, but we're all together in Maryland. So that's great. And at least we're together and everyone's safe and, happy. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Devon, I think a lot of players can relate to your role in the youth system growing up. Can you kind of share a little bit more about your youth and, your youth soccer career?
Yeah, so like I said, I was involved with the youth Canadian national team. I started out playing with Team Ontario. I started out really low with districts, then regionals, then provincials, and I don't even know if they have districts anymore. Like, I feel like I'm old, but that's how I started out. And I started out playing for those teams and kind of hitting those, pillars. And I ended up getting identified by playing on my provincial team and other showcase tournaments by the youth Canadian national team. I got invited into camps with many other players that I was playing with on my provincial team, Team Ontario. Would go into camps pretty frequently in BC or Florida. And basically, it would just be either frequent camps throughout the year that you would be training with the team, or you'd be preparing for some type of CONCACAF qualifier, which we which we were a part of, we had to go through to go to the World Cup. And basically I went to the qualifiers and then the U17 World Cup in Costa Rica. So that was a pretty amazing experience for me. But yeah, I was involved with it from a pretty young age. I think I got in when I was 15, and I ended my most recent with Canada was when I was under 20, and then that's when I made the switch to the US.
Awesome. We were flooded with questions, beforehand. So I guess I just kind of, one of the biggest questions that a lot of keepers asked was, when did you kind of know you wanted to pursue soccer at this level? Or when did you know that soccer was a thing, or was that always a goal in your mind, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, I definitely think for me, I always wanted to play soccer. That was a big thing for me. I loved the game. I loved playing. But when I really realized, because I think a lot of young kids have that dream where they're like, I want to be pro, I want to be national team player, I want to be this, I want to be that. And for me, it was when I was pretty young, I didn't really say that right off the bat because we didn't have that platform, that avenue for us at that time. But it was as soon as the NWSL was developed, I started to realize, like, wow, like I really have this opportunity waiting for me once I'm done with my collegiate career to go play pro. And it's there for me and it's ready if I choose that's the path I want to go. So I think that was I really knew that I wanted to play professionally or at the highest level when I was pretty young, around maybe 14. But once I went to college, that's when it really clicked with me that that was my goal. And that was even before college, actually, but that was my goal. And that was what I wanted to strive towards and get towards and accomplish, So like having that waiting for me after college was I think great for all females in soccer, and having, that type of stability that you could potentially have after you're done playing. So I think that was really awesome to have. And I think women's soccer has made like pretty big changes and leaps and bounds from what it used to be and what the league used to be. And it's pretty great right now. So I think that was definitely what really made it much more real for me when I was in college, that a professional soccer player was what I wanted my job to be. That's what I wanted to do every single day. So
that's awesome. Like, and it's truly paying off. When you talk about your youth, your club environment, what kind of support and training did you have? I mean, you've done a lot, and there's been a lot of publication on your story, and there's a lot out there on YouTube. What was your week to week like as a youth player as you were developing?
yeah, I think he's actually on this call right now, but my club coach, Dave Benning, he really helped open doors for not just me, but all of my teammates. I played for Glen Shields. I originally played for Barrie when I was really young, but then I went and played for Glen Shields. And that was really when I started to notice a takeoff with my skills and my game. And that was one due to the fact that our team was really, really great. And we had Dave as a coach and we had great support staff and everything. And we went to a ton of showcase tournaments and we went to a ton of like ID tournaments, which got all of us out there and in front of college coaches. And I think that was huge for me at a young age. And I played a year up, which I think was great because I got that exposure really early that I needed and I really wanted to have in order to have a good pick of what college I wanted to go to. But yeah, my club soccer experience was I lived in Barrie, Ontario, which was an hour away from where Glen Shields was, where my club, or a little bit over an hour, where my club team was. So I ended up going to a sports high school in Markham called Bill Crothers. And that was really, really helpful for me during that time, because I was involved with the national team. I had club soccer. I had a lot of things on my plate. I was also playing basketball competitively and volleyball competitively at the same time. So there's a lot of things that on my plate, and my school really helped with facilitating all of the things that I was missing and helping me out as much as possible. So I did well in school and could, see that next step for college. But that was how my days would go. I would wake up at 5 a.m. I would leave by 6, get on the road, be at my school by 7:15, wait around until school started, get homework done, do whatever. If I had basketball practice in the morning, or if I had soccer practice in the morning, whatever sport I was in during what semester, I would be doing that. And then I would go through classes all day, and then I would head to either goalkeeper training with my Glen Shields goalkeeper coach Eddie, or I would go from that then to team training with Dave and my team. So it was, and then I would get home around 11 at night most likely, and then just repeat. And I did that every day for like as long as I could remember. And I don't know how I did not get burnt out when I had so much energy. But that was my life. And I think that was a really big thing that I can look back at now, and like what separates me from other players and goalkeepers was that amount of sacrifice that I made for my ultimate goal, which was to be a professional athlete, and which was to be the best I could be and reach the highest possible ceiling I could reach. So I think me sacrificing and having that support staff there for me, like Dave and all my club coaches, that really helped me, reach that potential at that young age before I went to college and then so on. That was really, really helpful for me. And yeah, I think that's definitely like what's helped set me apart and get me to where I am. But yeah, that was pretty much my schedule. Yeah.
And it's really intense. So it kind of goes into the next one. How do you, what do you think kept that motivation or kept that fire? What kind of, was it, internally, what kind of family support system? And, I know you mentioned your coaches, what kind of, led to keeping that fire?
Yeah. I mean, I have now realized it a lot more since I'm older, but back then I can understand how I was then, but I was really self-motivated. I was really competitive. I was really eager to be the best or show my talents or get opportunities. So I think what helped really keep my motivation was that I loved playing and I loved getting success, and being on a team like Glen Shields, we got a lot of success, and that always like helped fuel me and keep me like super into it, because we were great, and I had a great team in front of me, and I was progressing as a goalkeeper. And then with the provincial team, same thing, I was progressing as a goalkeeper, and I think those things for me were, really, really important to help me stay motivated and stay, driven towards what I wanted my goals to be.
Awesome. When you talked about your recruiting process, we have a lot of girls on the call that are getting to that age. Can you share a little bit about what it was like in your process, getting recruited? Everybody has ups and downs during the recruiting process. So can you kind of share a little bit of yours, and can you kind of give advice to any girls who are currently entering that, 15 through 17 high school age and are feeling that pressure?
Yeah. Like I said before, was that I played up a year. So that was really helpful for me, was because I was getting exposure to college coaches and, getting exposure to college coaches like pretty early on, which was really great for me. I think the biggest advice I would give is, when you are going to an ID tournament or any type of showcase tournament, make sure you research what colleges are going to be going, because usually they'll tell you which colleges are going to be attending those showcases. Research which colleges are going, look into which colleges you're interested in, not just the program for soccer, but I know you might not know specifically what type of field you want to go into, but look to see how their academic side is as well. Research those things, then reach out to those college coaches, email them your game schedule, what fields you're going to be on, everything, be as specific as possible, because like you need to also understand these coaches have hundreds and hundreds of girls they're looking at every weekend. So you want to try to stand out as much as possible. That's a really big thing. And I think that was what helped me get my name out there as much as possible. Was Dave helped a lot. He was really great with having relationships with coaches, but also like myself reaching out and, you know, trying to put a name to a face. I don't know the rules anymore now. I heard they changed, that they aren't allowed to talk to you until a certain time now, which wasn't the case when I was being recruited, but I still think definitely emailing them, letting them know your schedule, letting them know everything, like what team you play for, everything. And I think that's really important to make sure that you're, you know, on their radar and you look interesting to them.
Awesome. Did you always know?
I hope my connection's okay. I feel like
the video froze a little bit, but yeah, I think the internet is full tonight. How'd you make your decision on the school? What was the decision process for you?
I went to a lot of schools. I visited a few. Ohio State, man, it just felt like home. Like I got there and I toured the campus and it just felt like I couldn't picture myself any other place. So that was one of the big deciding factors, is that I just had that feeling that I knew this was where I wanted to spend my 4 years. This is where I knew my family was going to be, where I was going to get better, where I was going to excel, where I could really be a vital player on that team. I also looked at going to different schools and seeing which teams suited me more. There was obviously powerhouse teams that I could have gone to, and I had to think, okay, well, will I play my 4 years? Will I just be on a national championship team, but will I ever step on the pitch? Like I wanted to make sure I was going to be out of school where I was going to have that opportunity to play and to be noticed and to impact my team the best I could and the program. And then I also looked at the supporting factors of the education side of it. So how good are the programs that I wanted to be in? How are the supporting factors of tutoring and all the resources available to us to help us be successful? And Ohio State was by far the most professional school I had visited regarding that. And Lori Walker, my head coach, oh my gosh, that woman has a very, very dear place in my heart. She is unlike any coach I've ever had. She can break you and change you and make you into the player that you really know you could be, but you needed some very kind words to get you there. So I think she was also a big factor on why I wanted to go there, because I knew she was going to bring the best out of me, and whatever way that was, she got it out of me. And her and I's relationship to this day is incredible. And yeah, I thank her for so much that she did for me. But those were all the reasons I really felt like Ohio State was the best fit for me.
No, it's great. You touched on it a little bit. How did you deal with balancing athletics and academics? I mean, you were an all-academic Big Ten player for 3 years, an OSU scholar. How were you able to maintain that balance?
Yeah, so again, that was like the resources available to us. I don't know if anyone relates to this right now, but in high school, I really didn't click with high school. I struggled with high school. I didn't like the classes I took. I never felt like I was being challenged intellectually. I never felt like I was really being given anything I was fully interested in. And that was a big thing for me in high school, that I just wasn't interested in what I was learning. So I really didn't want to try to learn it. And that was what kind of was an issue for me to try to get into college, because I wasn't the best student in high school. And then once I got to college and I had these resources available to me, and I found such amazing courses that I wanted to take and what avenue I wanted to go down, I unlocked like this side of me with academics that I had never seen. And I was on the dean's list. I was academic all Big Ten. I really thrived in the college environment for schooling. And I think a big part of that was definitely the resources I had. Ohio State, they had us, my freshman year, we had to have a minimum amount of tutoring hours per week. We also had to, after tutoring hours, we had to spend time, we had study table hours, we had to meet where we had to scan our ID in, physically be there studying, and then scan out when we met those amount of study hours. So that was, it was almost like you couldn't not fail. You had to try to fail. Like you really did at Ohio State, because every type of resource that was available to you, that you should have never failed a class. So I really appreciated all of that. I had the best support system with those things. And yeah, on an academic side of Ohio State, like the soccer was amazing, but the academic really helps you, you know, reach a new area of yourself that you didn't know you could do. So yeah.
Awesome. I think that's great advice. So one of the biggest questions I think that young keepers have talked about, how do you handle the pressure of a big game? You've played in many big games, meaningful games. How do you mentally get ready for it and handle that pressure? A lot of keepers seem to struggle with that.
Yeah. So I'm, and people won't be able to fully relate to this. So the way I handle pressure is I really enjoy pressure. I actually enjoy being under pressure more than being in a situation where there isn't any pressure. Like I rather be put under it. I feel like that is where I can tap into my really competitive and tap into my talent and my calmness. Like I feel very calm in high pressure situations. It's where I just know I can handle it, and I can, you know, um, really show my stuff. But I think with a lot of players, sometimes that isn't the case. Like it is difficult, and pressure can be nerve wracking and stressful and overwhelming. So I think when I was younger and maybe I wasn't as comfortable with high pressure situations, a big thing for me is I always um, wanted to make sure I did a lot of like understanding of the team I was going to play. I always wanted to make sure I had a good warm up. That always helped calm me down and be able to deal with the game that I was about to play. And I always had like like a an action that I would do if I wanted to calm myself down or snap back to a sense of being collected and calm. I would sometimes slap my gloves together, or I would, you know, mumble words to myself because I'm a goalkeeper and we're weird. But I would do that, and usually that would bring me back to center and help me, you know, get back to the basics and and do what I know how to be doing. Because as a goalkeeper, and this goes for being a field player as well, but as a goalkeeper, your skills never leave you. They don't. As much as you might be having a tragic game or making mistakes or whatever, your skills are going to leave you. As quickly as you can just try to bounce back to the basics and slowing things down and calming things down, that's when you'll, you know, notice a change and things will start getting better. I've had games where I've made mistakes, or and that's my fault, and I've told myself, just okay, you know what to do, snap back, do one thing at a time, like simple basics, and just try to collect yourself. And I think that was the most helpful thing to me, instead of getting upset and like angry and blaming myself, which honestly will just spiral you down even further. I think the best thing is to try to stay as positive as you can with yourself and remember why you are in the position you are in. And that's because you're a good goalkeeper and you should be here. So I think always trying to remain positive with yourself as best as you can, and having some type of key phrases or actions to snap you back after you've maybe done something or made a mistake that you didn't like. So yeah, that's the best advice I think I can give for that.
I think you're bringing up, a mistake ritual or, things like that, or bounce back ritual. Did you always have that, or did you develop it over time? How did you build that into your repertoire? Like, you seem to have a lot of amazing tools for dealing with
I
mistakes.
developed that over time. I think yeah, I definitely think I developed it over time. I won't say ever that I just naturally had all of these things I could do to help keep me centered. I sometimes would make mistakes and I would freak out and I'd be upset and I would spiral down because that's just what happens. But then I think after time and after meeting with certain coaches that would help me understand areas of my game and how to react to them. Dave was one coach that helped me with this. Lori was another coach that really helped me with this. My current goalkeeper coach in Washington, he is a big one. Like, they helped, one, they understood me as a player, so they understood how I was, and they gave me techniques and tips and helpful things to, try to bounce back from a mistake. And not even just my coaches, I've had meetings with sports psychologists, I've had meetings with team doctors, everything, just to help, different little exercises to try to help, because everybody goes through it. All players are going to go through some type of self-doubt or pressure or freaking out during a game, and like, that's normal. But the part that'll separate you from those types of players is how quickly you can just bring yourself back and be able to move forward positively instead of letting that mistake kind of dictate your play for the rest of the game or season or whatever it is. So yeah, I definitely think it's possible to develop these actions or traits or whatever. And just because maybe you are doing it now where you're a little bit negative on yourself and stuff, you can quickly learn how to fix that and get yourself out of those types of reactions.
Awesome. I think that's huge advice and very helpful stuff for all of us and all the weirdos on the call. I think us keepers have to stick together, so it's good. A lot of girls are asking what your training regimen is like now. I know it's different from a normal pro regiment, so you maybe want to
We do
share some insight into what you're doing now and what your usual pro regimen is like. Did we lose you?
Virus and everything. My regiment with the Spirit was we would wake up, we would head to the field. We would drive to the field about 20 minutes away, and we would have breakfast set out for us by our team managers. They would prepare, a bunch of people have specific dietary needs, so they would have everything that you could think of for breakfast. We'd make ourselves breakfast, we would go into our locker room, we would kind of just hang out with each other for a little bit, drink our coffee because obviously it's super important, and then we would change for training, go get treatment if you needed treatment, and then go hang out in the players lounge until it was time to head out to the field. And after we would head out to the field, we would do our warm-up. I would go train with the goalkeepers for most of the session. Then we would incorporate into the team session, go through a few drills with the team, head home. Or sorry, not head home, head back to the locker room, change, head to lift. And we would go to our lifting facility and we would go lift. And then after we would lift, they would always have our protein shakes for us available, and we would take our protein shakes right after we lifted, and then that was it for the day, and then we'd be able to go home. So we'd usually finish around 3 o'clock every day. Washington Spirit honestly is by far the most professional club I've ever been a part of. They track everything sports science wise. It's wild. Like, we have so many little GPS units and trackers on us during training that give them the data they need to know if we're hitting the marks we need to be hitting fitness wise, or if we are being overworked or whatever. Then since this whole coronavirus happened, we actually we were the first NWSL team to go play in Florida for preseason. We got to Florida. We had word about what was happening with COVID, and we got to Florida, and we got one training session unbelt, and then the NWSL shut everybody down the next day. So we got an email that we were no longer allowed to train with our team. We were no longer allowed to be in groups larger than 2. So that really all things. We were ready to get going with preseason. Our team was looking awesome, but that really halted things. So those rules kind of affected a lot of people. We weren't allowed to have coaches around. We weren't allowed to, be in group gatherings. It was tough for us because we were on a resort. So we didn't know what was going on outside of the resort. We were kind of just in our own bubble. So for me and Katie, our other goalkeeper, because Aubrey was still in Australia playing there. So Katie and I would train every day together because it was just 2 of us. But it was definitely not the same amount of training we needed to stay at our highest level, because we're not, receiving shots or action from our players. Our players were also not able to get the same amount of training that they wanted or needed because there was only allowed to be 2 of them. So it was tough. We also had to go at different times throughout the day because we couldn't have more than a certain amount of people on the field at a time. So it was pretty tough. And we went through that for a couple weeks, and then we ended up coming home, and then in full shutdown mode where we weren't even leaving our apartments, and the NWSL kept updating us with different courses of action we had to take, and it was pretty tough for a while. We were still allowed to go out because Maryland hadn't shut down yet, so we were allowed to go out and do fitness. I would go out and run on our turf field that was near us, go get training that way. But then once Maryland shut down public parks and everything, that became more difficult for us to get the type of training we needed. So we were really forced to stay indoors. The Spirit was amazing because they provided each apartment with weights and lifting equipment and everything, so we could do workouts at home and stay as fit as possible. We were still allowed to run outside, but we weren't able to go to fields. So the training recently has been pretty tough. I've still able to do some goalkeeping drills with Katie, our goalkeeper, but it definitely hasn't been the same. But it's been nice to give my body a little bit of a break from all of the impact, but being taught to go into this next phase of returning to play by this NWSL. They just told us a few days ago. So we are in the process of being allowed to train in groups of 3. And that's going to be starting next week. So we're going to be allowed to start doing that, and then slowly, coming back into full-blown training eventually. It's just difficult because some states have different guidelines and protocols. So it's been kind of tough, but we understand like the NWSL is just trying to keep everyone as safe as possible and trying to keep everybody else in the US safe. So it's a sacrifice we know we have to pay, but it's for, hopefully a season, and we want to have a season, and we want to get this done with as quickly as possible so we are able to move forward and have that season. But yeah, that's kind of just been the training. We're all pretty pumped that we're going to be allowed to start training a little bit more soon. So that's been exciting.
Yeah, I think all the players are pumped for you to get going because we're hoping the youth leagues are a little bit behind the pro leagues. So, and I think the NWSL came off a very successful year last year at the end, especially with attendance. So you touched a little bit on it, and it's been a question, I think. Everybody talks about how players keep fit, but a lot of girls have questions about, what do you do differently, or what do you think goalkeepers need to do differently, for you to stay fit and strong? What attributes did you work with your strength coach at Ohio State on, and what attributes have you worked on since you've turned pro?
Yeah, so Goalkeeper fitness is so different than being field player fit. I've realized that pretty quickly during this time. We have an amazing strength and conditioning coach, Michael, who puts together customized lifts and runs us every single day. And I have been doing all the field player runs, and now I can run for days and I'm fit in that aspect. But when it comes to goalkeeping, it's a very different type of cardiac into, where the only way I stay fit for that side of training, like I can run and be fine, but if I was to try to do a heavy, high intensity goalkeeper session, I would probably be fried, because the type of training goalkeepers need isn't, long types of distance running or stuff. It's short bursts, short sprints. Plyometrics are huge. Plyos are the biggest thing. Resistance training, that's a big thing. Being explosive, we always did a lot of stuff before everything went down, where we would have our goalkeeper coach would put harnesses around us and put them to the goalpost, tie them to the goalpost, and we would stretch them out to like the max tension, and we would have to dive and get up, dive and get up, dive and get up. And that really helped with our explosiveness. It was crazy tiring exercise, but helped keep us fit, helped keep us explosive. Resistance training, strength training, that's a big thing. Goalkeepers are most of the time the strongest players on the team. And that's because it's a powerful position. You need to be really strong. So weight training was a big thing. I lifted a lot at Ohio State because our facilities were amazing. So that helped prepare me, but pro was even more than that. Like I have been lifting a ton since I've been here. Not as heavy as I've wanted to because of everything that's been going on, and the weights that we've been provided aren't, super heavy because it's just not possible. But that's a big thing for goalkeepers. You want to be in the gym, you want to be doing weight training, you want to be doing resistance training, you want to be doing plyometric. Jumping is so important. Being powerful, not just on two legs, but single leg power is so important. And that has been a big thing for me. I tore my meniscus my senior year of college. It was torn my whole season, and then I decided to play the season with it and then get surgery after, right before the Nwsl Draft. So I did that, and repairing it and being stable with single leg power has been such a big thing for me and helping my recovery. And now my leg is stronger than ever, and I feel very powerful now because of it, because of those exercises. So like those are, I think, the biggest things for goalkeepers that you want to focus on. Running's great. Doing a 5-mile run, it's great. Makes you feel productive, makes you feel, like you're doing a lot. But honestly, it's better for goalkeepers to be doing short, quick little sprints. Nothing longer. I literally sing longer than 15 minutes. And plyometrics. That's the realm of goalkeeping I think is the most important. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's a wonderfully detailed answer. To kind of take it back to technical skills, what do you think are the goalkeeping skills that set you apart, and had you stand out even now into your pro days? And what do you consider a weakness of yours, or was a weakness of yours, or something that you're always looking to improve?
Yeah. I think something that sets me apart, has helped me a lot as a goalkeeper, is I don't have fear really with going in for tackles, going in for 1v1s, going, to make those types of saves. I think that's always been helpful for me as a keeper, where I've been courageous enough to go into those tackles. That's been a big skill of mine. I also am a pretty good shot stopper. That's one of my biggest skill sets. I can thank that to my goalkeeper coaches, Riccardo Greco, crazy Italian man who I love so deeply. He's amazing. I've grown up, he trained me ever since I was 8 years old, up until even when I go home during the off season. And then Eddie, he was my Glen Shields goalkeeper coach. He was amazing as well. And same with my coach right now, Ian McCalden. So they all know how much I like to fly and dive, but I think that's actually been something that's been harnessed in since I've gone pro, and realizing I don't need to be making these upper 90 saves every 5 seconds, because the women's game is all we say in like this little bubble. So a thing that really helped me take my game to the next level was that I started controlling all this area of my game, and I started becoming very clean with my handling and my footwork. So shots that I used to be diving for and stuff, I'm very clean with my footwork, so I'm just able to move and collect the ball easily instead of, you know, giving off a rebound for no reason. So those were pretty big things that I think I'm known for doing. I think also when I was at Ohio State, and now my communication, I guess my presence on the field is a characteristic that I was also known for having and being good at. I was confident. I was a leader at the back of my team, and I was trying to be as you know, assertive and helpful as possible back there. I think communication as a goalkeeper is huge, and I think that was something that really helped me, you know, get attention as a goalkeeper as well, because I was able to be assertive to my team. I was able to have a presence on my team. I was able to, you know, calm my team down when I needed to. Something that was a weakness for me when I was younger, but isn't a weakness for me anymore. It's actually one of my strengths now, but it was my distribution. And I think that was a big change for me. And it sometimes took a while when I was younger, because I wasn't fully understanding of a lot of things technically with my feet. And that's such a big thing now with the game of soccer, especially with goalkeepers, is we're literally so important to be using our feet. It's so important for goalkeepers to use their feet and be good with their feet. You're a play setter. Ultimately, you help set play, you help calm the team down with your feet. And I think that's been something that has improved for me tremendously. And now it is one of my strengths, because one thing, it was a strength for me in college, but once I went pro, the amount of difference from college level speed to professional speed of play was like night and day. So I think that also helped me, you know, get better, even better with my feet, and more accurate. So that would be a piece of advice I would give all you guys. All you need is a wall or a partner or mom or dad or somebody. Hit the ball against the wall, get comfortable with the ball on your foot. That's just so like important. If I could have told myself that when I was younger to do that, I probably would have progressed quicker. But it's something that I'm strong at now. But definitely for you guys, I think taking a ball to the wall, grabbing a parent, going out to the field, telling them to go stand somewhere, and you ping the ball to them and be as accurate as possible, and keep practicing that and keep practicing that. I think it's so huge. And working on your first touch and moving away from pressure, I think that's really big for a goalkeeper, especially now with how soccer is being played and how needed we are at the back. So definitely think that's really important for everybody.
It's so funny you talked about your distribution from your feet, because Daniel just messaged me. He said, "Ask her about the distribution from her feet." So I was laughing. Oh, it's awesome. And I think, yeah, you definitely continue to complete yourself as a keeper. And
That's funny.
it's awesome to see. Can you share a couple of maybe your favorite memories as a keeper? Could have been when you were young, could have been last month. So you have some favorite keeper moments that stand out?
Yeah. One of my favorite memories was definitely when we won the Big Ten championship in college. That was a pretty crazy game. That was a pretty awesome thing, because Penn State, we hate Penn State, always will hate Penn State, but we beat Minnesota, and we had found out that because we beat them, I think we were tied with Penn State, and if we won the next game we played, we would outright be Big Ten champs. And that was always the thing, with either Penn State completely won the Big Ten, or they always clinched or shared the title with somebody else. And the last time Ohio State won the Big Ten was shared with Penn State, and it was 2010. So by us doing that, we won the game, and we all went absolutely crazy because we were the first team in Ohio State history to outright win the Big Ten championship. And that was just like such an amazing feeling. The team we had that year was amazing. It was just so awesome. And to know that we, you know, set that, accomplishment, and it just made us so happy, and it made the program so happy, and it really, you know, helped them on the map even more. So I think that was one of my favorite college memories. And so far with pro, I think I didn't play last year with Houston, but I had some great memories from training. But this year, honestly, every time I've stepped on the field with this team, it's been amazing. Like, this is the most close-knit group of professionals I've ever been a part of. This team is so close. Everybody is so respectful of each other. The talent is amazing. Our captains are incredible. And every training session is so productive and intense. And we're always getting so much out of it. And it's just such a pleasure to play with them. And we're really hoping that it was amazing going to that every single day and being a part of such a amazing organization and club. And yeah, and we were really excited for this year because we want to win championship. We want to be NWSL champions this year, and we really think we have the team to do that. So we're super excited to, you know, get out there and get playing and yeah, so.
Awesome. So now on the flip side, and keep the questions coming, but so on the flip side, what are some of your biggest setbacks you felt like in soccer, or what's a moment where you think you really had to run with adversity and, you know, and had to overcome it, and how did you overcome it?
I think with me, national team experience, I would say, would have been where I felt like there was the most adversity in my life. I always wanted to be on the national team. I always wanted to play for Team Canada. I wanted to do it, and it was amazing. And it went for a while, and then all of a sudden things stopped going my way. And I always was pretty bitter about that. But looking back at it now, knowing I'm mature, I'm like, it's not because, you know, the world's out to get me and things like that. It's because I wasn't needed at that time. I wasn't where I needed to be at that time. And that's it. Like, there's no other reason. There's a bunch of factors that I feel like girls and boys try to dissect so intensely, thinking that they'll one day understand why a national team doesn't, you know, bring them in or invite them to camps and stuff. And my biggest piece of advice is, like, you are never going to understand, like, the reasoning behind what those coaches want. And I think those setbacks for me were pretty tough, because even once I went to the US team, I was in with the US team frequently, like camp after camp after camp after camp. And then I was up to the 23s camp after camp. And like, then I stopped being invited for a little bit, and then I got invited again, and then stopped for a year and was invited again. So it was like, it was difficult for me to swallow that. And I think my biggest advice for this would be, because I was so fixated, because that was my goal, and my goal was national team. And I just was completely blinders on. And if I didn't get called to a camp, or if I didn't get invited with the national team, like, I had failed. And I think that once I made this change to how I thought, it was when I really started seeing my joy for playing really start coming back again. Because before that, I was really just like laser focused. Like, there was joy in playing, but I was treating it way too seriously. And I think the advice is that when you focus with national team stuff, when I'm focusing way too hard on like this result and I'm not getting called in, it's not helpful when I decided to start just to let go and understand that, like, I just want to be the best I can be as a professional, as a soccer player. That's all I can ask for. If the national team decides to call me in based on that, that's great. I've met a goal, but I don't want ever my other goals that I was meeting that whole time to never be celebrated or, you know, looked at just because those amazing things I did didn't get me to that one big goal I want to have, if that makes sense. And I think that was something I finally had to click in my head, because when I wasn't getting invited to the national team, it wasn't because I sucked or I wasn't doing well. I was doing really well and I was having accolades in college. I had goalkeeper of the year, and I almost completely didn't care about that because I was upset that that didn't get me national team. So that was where I really needed to understand that that in itself was an accomplishment, and I need to not think that everything I do has to get me to that accomplishment, and if it doesn't, it just doesn't matter. And I think the biggest thing for you guys is you want to always celebrate the littles, and because that's what keeps you going and that's what also keeps you motivated. Because if you just live a life where you have one goal in place and it's a difficult goal to get to and you're not getting to it, you're never going to really feel like you're doing anything right, even though all those steps that you're doing to get to that goal you're accomplishing. But just because you're not getting to that goal, you don't really care. So I think trying to stay as positive with yourself and recognizing those goals that you're achieving and setting out little pillars for you to meet is a really helpful thing, because those were big setbacks for me, I thought, and they really kind of overwhelmed me for a while. But once I decided to, play for my joy and like myself and being happy and coming to the field every day and making these incredible saves and having fun with my teammates and just all this stuff, that brought me more joy than going to national team camps. So I think that's a big thing for you guys. And it doesn't need to be national team camps. It can be anything that you had strived for that's a really big goal and then you haven't made it. Like it's all the same. So it's just how you react to it is what'll set you apart and really help you progress in a positive way.
Devon, I think that's amazing advice. There's a lot of girls on this call that I know from our club at Tecumseh, from London and Toronto clubs in Ottawa, who I recognize who are probably going through that with Team Ontario, right? And goalie's not like every other position. There's only room for 2 goalkeepers or 3 goalkeepers. So, I think that's great advice. As we finish up, like I said, I mean, you've been so generous with your time. And I mean, that was a pretty good one. Is there, a message you want to leave all the girls with, or, kind of how some people have framed it as, do you have advice to kind of your younger self? I think that's been the cliche. Is there a message you'd like to leave all the young girls with on the call?
Yeah, I answered this question before, and I had always said that it isn't, there's sometimes 2 things I could say. One was I always wanted to tell my younger self, like, and I kind of did do it, but the best advice I can give is always like try to play as many sports as possible. I know we have some like older girls here too, and maybe you want to get more sports specific, but I think that was a big thing that always helped me so much with not even just like my athleticism, but with like my people skills, because at the end of the day, this isn't just all about, soccer and athletics, because part of what also helps you get places with your sport and soccer is your relationships with people and the way you interact with people. And I think by me playing so many sports when I was growing up helped with my athleticism, helped with me being able to handle a lot of pressure from different places, but also my people skills, my friendships I created, my communication skills with adults, because I was constantly around adults. And I definitely think, and you're getting a lot of coaching from different people, which sometimes you might think is a bad thing because it's so much information, but I think that always helped me because I was able to take little bits and pieces from every single coach from every single sport, and it didn't matter. And I was able to integrate them into myself, and it would help me in my area that I wanted to eventually focus on completely, which was soccer. And I have taken advice from my basketball coach that I still use today. I've taken advice from my volleyball coach that I still use today, and same with soccer coaches. So it's like, I think that's a big thing for younger people that I think I want them to do more, because you're seeing parents nowadays where they just want to get their kid like one sport, she's a star, she's going to do great things, like we need to focus on this. And I think that's a great idea, but I think you don't want to limit just to one avenue. I think it's great to just be, immersed in a lot of different activities at the same time. Also, a big one is work hard. And I think that's cliche sometimes, you think, but that is genuinely what sets you apart, because I used to survive on talent alone when I was younger, and that was my thing. I was just talented. I didn't really have to work out. I didn't really have to lift weights and run and do all of these extra things that girls were doing, because I had the talent. And then once I got to a certain age, I realized, oh wow, like I'm even with these girls because they've been doing all of these extra things, plus they have talent. So that's when I realized I needed to really, go into that third gear and do all these other things to help me get to that next level, and work as hard as I could to get me to that next level, and sacrifice things to get me to that next level. And that was a big thing I wish I told myself younger. I'm happy that it's clicked with me, since college, because when I had a coach like Lori Walker, there was no hiding ever during workouts and fitness and being mentally tough and physically tough. So I think that's a big thing that you sometimes you can teach some of it, but that's something that's inside you. I think the grittiness and the desire to be better than everybody, and the desire to be angry when someone's better than you. And that's not supposed to be a bad thing, but it's a competitive thing. And I think that's a big thing that I think is important for you guys to go away from this call with, is to know that you need to work hard if you want to get somewhere. It's not just going to get handed to you. So yeah.
Devon, that's amazing. This is definitely, and I don't say this all the time, this has definitely probably been one of my favorite calls. Some of your messages are especially to goalkeepers, because it deals with mentality, was just phenomenal. I just want to say thank you on behalf of Tecumseh Soccer Club and all the clubs across Ontario that are on this call, from London, from Toronto, from Ottawa area. Thank you so much for giving your time tonight. I know you're doing your runs and your fitness, and you're back in goalie training. So, I think if anything, you've gained some Washington Spirit fans on this call, and hopefully we'll be cheering for you as soon as you get back out on the field for the season. So we wish you the best of luck, and thank you very much for taking the time with us tonight.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm sorry the connection was bad, so I can't see your faces that well, but yeah, thank you all.
No, thanks. We appreciate you joining, and have a good night.
Okay.
Thanks, Devon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Okay. Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good one. Bye. Thanks, guys.